that they'll have to decide on. But there is an argument for spreading it far and wide and really, getting as much bang for your buck as you can.
Well, you would imagine some of these infrastructure things can possibly be done relatively cheaply, even though it is very expensive to install like 3G pitches and that sort of stuff generally, but maybe some might be able to get an upgrade on those sort of facilities to make them be used more. Clubhouse facilities can be improved and that sort of stuff, but then you could bring those clubhouses in to have rugby league watching parties, I don't know, or festivals around the tournament, and use the community clubs even maybe as training centres for things like Women's World Cup teams and that sort of thing. So then you've got the opportunity to develop a legacy, but you're putting that investment in before rather than hoping it'll trickle out after. I think it is a positive approach to it, even though we don't quite understand necessarily how it's going to work. But I hope lots of those community clubs out there, and we know loads of people who listen to SLP who are involved in community clubs, get some support from that. Okay, let's move away from bigger news stories, and I really feel out of my depth this week on some of those bigger news stories because I've not had the time to put in the reading that I normally would. Let's talk about some more frivolous stories, although they are significant for the teams and the individuals involved. And we're going to start with news that we expected to break last Monday, but it broke about 4 hours after the early recording, so we'll cover it off just quickly here. Warrington Wolves have signed standoff Blake Austin from NRL side Canberra Raiders on a 3-year deal from 2019. The 27-year-old joined the Raiders for the 2015 season and has scored 42 tries and 114 appearances in the NRL. I think very, very good signing. I think this is a better signing than Tyrone Roberts was, is my opinion.
Yeah, so it's not great. As a player, he's an upgrade on what they've got, and obviously what's leaving them at the end of the year. And he's probably the best signing of the week, I would argue. So it deserves to be top story.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, shall we do the next one?
Yep, so Castle Tigers winger James Clare has extended his contract until the end of the 2020 season. The 27-year-old rejoined the Tigers from Leigh in December and has scored 4 tries in 8 Super League games.
He's 9 now, isn't it? Because he didn't score at the weekend, but that's good news for him, certainly. Hull FC centre Josh Griffin has signed a new 2-year contract extension to keep him with the Super League club until the end of 2021. 28-year-old previously played for Salford Red Devils and joined the club on a 3-year deal starting in 2017, so it's an upgrade to an existing deal that he's managed to get. Griffin scored 8 tries in 44 appearances for the Black and Whites, including 5 this season. Certainly this season he was better than last season. So decent.
I can understand why they've seen how he's been going this year, and they've moved to kind of tie him down probably at a slightly better rate, which makes total sense.
Okay, the other big signing from Down Under that's happened, well, the second of 3 probably we should say, is that the Leeds Rhinos... Hold on, it's your turn, isn't it?
It is mine, yeah. So Leeds Rhinos have signed West Tigers halfback Tumalola Lola here on a 3-year deal. 23-year-old Tongan international will join the Heavenly side from his Australian club for the 2019 season. So Rich Wilkinson got in touch about this one, and he says, he's rocks and diamonds at best. Can be dangerous with the ball in hand, but is a headless chicken with pretty much no kicking game. He's a running 5'8" with utility value. This is an unimpressive signing, but I hope I'm proved wrong. Let's keep in mind he can't get a game at the Tigers, as Corey Thompson, previously at Widnes, has been genuinely outstanding in keeping him out of the team. Apparently they were in for Blake Austin, but he chose Warrington over Leeds. Austin is light years ahead of Lola here, and he's my tip for Man of Steel 2019. Get your bet in now. Cracking bit of business from Wyatt, and again highlights Leeds' lack of ability to sign real quality. So there's a bit of comment there about Austin there, but yeah. What do you think about Lola here at Leeds?
I think he's a really high caliber player. I don't think he'll stick around in Super League, so I don't expect him to play 3 years if he performs to the level his talent allows him to. And if you think the level he played at in some of the World Cup games, him and Ata Hingano were hugely impressive for Tonga, way better than I'd expected them to be off the back of their NRL form. And if he can play like that in enough big games in a Leeds Rhino shirt, then I'm sure he won't do 3 years. And he might not even if he doesn't play like that. But I get what Rich is saying. I think he's got a reasonable kicking game, but his kicking game is very, very hit and miss. His running game is much more consistent. I think he's a threatening player, so I think it's a reasonable signing. It basically is going to be Joel Moon's replacement. We can assume that.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because he's slightly... I think signings have overtaken him slightly at West, haven't they? Because obviously they've brought in... God, what's his name? The guy from Bulldogs.
Josh Reynolds.
Trip Merchant, yeah. But obviously Lolohea was supposed to be playing at fullback, wasn't he? Or rumoured to be more of a fullback choice. But I would guess that they're signing him to play at 6, I would suggest.
Yeah, I think he was always intended to be a half-back. He ended up playing a bit of fullback through necessity, really. I just think he's a talented kid. I wouldn't be writing him off like Rich is doing, but then again, I would rate Blake Austin as a more superior sign. I think Blake Austin's got a bit more complete a game about him, and has got a bit more of a leadership vibe, even though he doesn't always stand up to that, and he hasn't always fitted in everywhere he's been. Blake Austin, I think. I agree with Rich that Blake Austin is the better signing for Warrington than Lolohea is for Leeds. The other little bit of Leeds news, we say little bit of Leeds news, we probably would have had an absolute ton of feedback on this one. We have seen a lot of sad messages come through, especially for Dr. Bob Phillips, who's losing his absolute all-time fave as Ryan Hall is set to leave Leeds at the end of the season. He'll be going to the NRL, we think, although there's still some lingering rumours about rugby union. The NRL and the Sydney Roosters looks the most likely destination, unless something comes through at the Broncos, who are hotly chasing his signature too. What do you think about that?
Well, it's another player from kind of the kind of the
golden generation,
golden generation stuff, isn't it? Another player kind of moving on. There's nothing really you can say about his record. At the club, obviously you tend to see these things coming about. What he's won, he's won multiple titles with them. He's been a great player for them for many, many years.
He's not just won titles, he's been important in winning those titles. He's pulled out big moments in, league leaders winning campaigns. So we'll always remember that try at Huddersfield that has been showreeled on the Super League Twitter feed this afternoon, just to remind us all. And we'll also, he scored plenty of tries in grand finals as well. I remember him having a bit of him and Rob Burrow having a really strong influence together in that Castleford Challenge Cup final when Leeds finally got over that kind of hump of not winning a Challenge Cup for a while. So yeah, he's been a huge player for them. At 30 years old, possibly coming towards the twilight of his career, he's been around for 11-12 seasons now, so that might have played an interest if he could still get an NRL deal at this time of his career. Every credit to him for going off and trying it. I really hope it is an NRL deal rather than going to a sport outside of rugby league, because he's still got something to offer England for a year or two more, I would feel. And with the Aussies coming up over the next 2 years, however that might be, whether the Aussies get their way or we get what we were supposed to get and the GB tours next year and the Aussies come over the year after, he's got plenty to offer in those competitions.
Yeah, no. I mean, if he can get a deal, then I think this is kind of his last chance to go over and make a decent fist of it. But yeah, you can't really say anything against the way that his contribution to the club. So yeah, it's a sad day, I suppose, but all things must pass.
Yeah, and they're gonna be signing Luke Briscoe on a permanent deal, so that's the replacement sorted there.
Just saying it.
Yeah, well, Ash Hanley as well, don't forget, he's a winger really, even though he's excelled at centre this year. It gives him an opportunity to nail down that spot too, if they aren't going to go out and make a splash on a big money signing, which they might not with the ground redevelopment ongoing. Okay, what about Salford? They've made a big move for the back end of the season for them so far.
Yep, so Salford Red Devils have signed former Sydney Rooster and Manly Sea Eagles halfback Jackson Hastings on a deal until the end of the season. 22-year-old was released by Manly last month, and he's awaiting his final visa clearance before joining up with his new side. So that's quite a signing, isn't it? That's quite, that in a different week that would be big news. He's they've been crying out for a bit of creativity at halfback,
and he should offer that, shouldn't he?
He should do. He should do.
He's not left other clubs because he's got a lack of talent. It's because either they've not had the space to fit him in anymore, or he's had a personality clash with a leading figure at the club, and that's why he's kind of left clubs. So maybe there's question marks over that. But do you know what? They had to take a punt, didn't they, on someone, because they're absolutely screwed. They've got nothing in the squad. They're really struggling for points at the moment. And with Niall Levels being out for how long he's been out, teams have kind of been able to shift towards Junior Sow at the when you're further up the field towards the Salford end of the field, and when they're in attacking position, shift everyone around, whatever Robert Louis is going to do. And pretty much that's been all they've needed to do from a defending Salford perspective recently, and they've looked tired and battered, and so bringing in fresh blood I think is a great move for them.
Yeah.
Okay, Castleford have allowed prop James Green to join Bradford on loan for the rest of the season, with promising Bulls youngster Rhys Butterworth heading the other way for the remainder of 2018. It's understood that Butterworth, a young hooker who recently spent time at Batley on loan, has joined the Tigers with a view to a more permanent arrangement in 2019 should he impress while at the Super League side. Now, Alan, I've got a question for you here. How is it that Rhys Butterworth can't get into League One Bradford Bulls side, yet can play in the Championship, and now it's time for a Super League club?
Good question. It might be an issue, not about the teams that he's going to and depth, rather than his natural ability. So obviously we signed Flanagan earlier in the year.
Yeah.
We've got Hallis, who plays there, and we've got Halafihi, who can play there as well. So we've got three good hooking options. I haven't really seen Rhys play very much, to be brutally honest with you, because he's been out on loan. Obviously, Cass sees something in him, and there's a bit of a history there in terms of promising playmakers heading to Cass after leaving Bradford. I wouldn't. You don't begrudge anyone with a chance to go. Well, at least appear in a full-time environment and see what and see what it's like.
He's got some good a good hooker in McShane, some good playmakers and coaching staff around him to develop his game. And James Green hasn't really had a look in at Cass at all. He spent a lot of time at their dual reg partners earlier this season, but Bradford adding a bit of beef for the run-in just in time for the big game against York.
Well, this is the thing. What I think this does is I think it addressed the need in both teams, or a squad depth need. Obviously, Green comes straight in for us and plays and adds something to us in 2018, where obviously Butterworth probably Tigers are looking at him for 2019, 2020, 2021 type things. He's a long-term investment for them.
Yeah, he's got a chance, hasn't he, to give himself that opportunity now in a Super League environment. And even if he just gets the odd game in backup grades, he's still got an opportunity to showcase himself to other Super League clubs in those kind of games as well, which is
absolutely
great for the kid. Okay. Huddersfield Giants have handed young halfback Oliver Russell a new 2-year contract following an impressive debut against Widnes in May. Russell has gone on to make 4 appearances this season, and the Giants have been quick to secure his future for the next 2 years. Yeah, they've won 3 of the 4 games. He's made 3 try assists in those games, kicked some pretty important goals as well in those games. I've been impressed by the kid. I think it's good news for them all round.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. So Hull KF, I would lead you. I signed a new 2-year deal, keeping it with the club until the end of 2020. 31-year-old was out of contract at the end of the season, but has become the latest player to commit his future to the club.
Yeah, sensible. Witnessing leads you away there. Okay. Wigan Warriors made a bit of a splash today.